Imagine walking home on a crisp autumn evening, the streets dimly lit, when suddenly, a chill runs down your spine. You've just stumbled upon a crime scene, and the victim's lifeless body lies before you. This is the harsh reality of Britain's cold cases, where the pursuit of justice is a never-ending battle. You find yourself standing at the edge of a dense forest, the trees towering above you like sentinels. The air is heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. A faint mist clings to the ground, casting an eerie gloom over the landscape. This is where the story of Britain's cold cases begins, in the depths of the countryside, where the silence is only broken by the sound of rustling leaves and the distant hum of a car driving by. It's a place where time seems to stand still, and the past lingers in every breath. As you walk through the forest, the trees seem to close in around you, casting long, ominous shadows on the ground. You can't shake the feeling that you're being watched, that unblinking eyes are trained on you from the darkness. And then, you stumble upon a clearing, and in the center, you see a makeshift memorial, a poignant reminder of a life cut short. The flowers are wilted, the teddy bear is torn, and the inscription on the stone is fading, but the pain and the grief are still palpable. This is the story of a young girl, who vanished into thin air, leaving behind only whispers of her existence. Her name was Sarah, and she was just 17 when she disappeared. The investigation that followed was one of the most extensive in British history, with detectives scouring the countryside, searching for any sign of her. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, hope began to fade. The case went cold, and Sarah's family was left with only questions, and a haunting sense of uncertainty. As you stand there, surrounded by the silence of the forest, you can't help but wonder, what happened to Sarah? Was she taken by someone she knew, or was it a stranger who snatched her from the streets? The not knowing is what's most terrifying, the uncertainty that hangs over the family like a dark cloud. And as you turn to leave, you notice something on the ground, a small piece of paper, caught in a bush. You walk over to investigate, and as you pick it up, you realize it's a note, a cryptic message that reads, "I'm still here." The words send a chill down your spine, and you can't help but wonder, who wrote this, and what do they mean? You're now standing in a dimly lit room, the walls lined with files, and the air thick with the scent of old paper. A detective, with a worn expression, sits at a desk, sifting through the files, searching for any clue that might lead to a breakthrough. The case is now 20 years old, but the detective is still driven by a sense of justice, and need to uncover the truth. As you watch, the detective pulls out a file, and begins to read, his eyes scanning the pages, his face a picture of concentration. Suddenly, he stops, his eyes widening, as he realizes something. He looks up, and you see a glimmer of hope in his eyes, a sense that he might finally have found the lead he's been searching for. The file is that of a young woman, who went missing just a few miles from where Sarah vanished. The similarities between the two cases are striking, and the detective is convinced that he's found a connection. As you listen, the detective begins to explain, his voice low and measured, "We've been looking for a link between the two cases, and I think we've finally found it. The same MO, the same type of victim, it's all too coincidental. I believe we're dealing with a serial killer, someone who's been operating in the area for decades." The words send a chill down your spine, as you realize the enormity of what you're dealing with. A serial killer, who's been able to evade capture for so long, is a terrifying prospect. And as you stand there, you can't help but wonder, how many other victims are out there, waiting to be found? You're now standing in a crowded police station, the sound of phones ringing, and people talking, filling the air. The investigation is in full swing, with detectives working around the clock, to follow up on leads. The case is now a priority, and the police are determined to catch the killer, and bring closure to the families. As you watch, a detective stands at a whiteboard, marking up a timeline of the events leading up to the disappearances. The board is filled with notes, and photos of the victims, and the detective is trying to find a pattern, a connection between the cases. The room is filled with a sense of urgency, as the detectives work to piece together the evidence and find the killer. The tension is palpable as the clock ticks away and the detectives know they're running out of time. The killer could strike again at any moment and they need to find him before it's too late. As you stand there, you can't help but feel a sense of admiration for the detectives who are working tirelessly to solve the case. They're driven by a sense of justice and need to protect the public and bring closure to the families. And as you watch, a detective walks over to the board and points to a photo. This is our latest lead, a suspect who was seen in the area around the time of the disappearances. We're still trying to identify him, but we're hopeful that he might be our man. The words send a surge of excitement through the room as the detectives realize they might finally have a break in the case. You're now standing in a quiet, suburban street. The house is tidy and well manicured. But as you look closer, you notice something strange, a sense of unease that hangs in the air. The street is lined with trees, and the houses seem to loom over you, casting long shadows on the ground. As you walk down the street, you notice a house that seems out of place, a house that seems to be watching you. The windows are boarded up, and the door is covered in cobwebs. It's a house that seems to have been abandoned for decades. But as you approach, you hear a noise, a faint sound that seems to be coming from inside. You push open the creaky gate and walk up the path, your heart pounding in your chest. As you reach the door, you realize it's slightly ajar, and you push it open to reveal a dark and musty interior. The air is thick with the scent of decay and rot. And as you step inside, you see something that makes your blood run cold. A room filled with photos of the victims and a message scrawled on the wall, "I'll never be caught." The words send a chill down your spine as you realize you're standing in the lair of the killer. The room is a shrine to his twisted desires, and the photos are a trophy of his brutal crimes. As you stand there, you can't help but wonder how many other secrets are hidden in this house and what other surprises might be waiting for you. You're now standing in a crowded courtroom, the sound of murmuring and shuffling feet filling the air. The trial of the killer is underway and the atmosphere is tense. The families of the victims are seated in the front row, their faces etched with pain and grief. The killer sits in the dock, his face a picture of calm and composure. As the prosecutor stands to deliver the opening statement, the room falls silent. The words are laced with emotion and the prosecutor's voice is filled with conviction. The defendant is a monster who has brought unimaginable pain and suffering to the families of the victims. He is a calculated and ruthless killer who has shown no remorse for his crimes. The words send a shiver down your spine as you realize the gravity of the situation. The killer is a master of manipulation who has used his charm and charisma to lure his victims to their deaths. As the trial continues, you can't help but wonder how the jury will react to the evidence and whether justice will be served. The fate of the killer hangs in the balance, and the families of the victims wait with bated breath for the verdict. You're now standing in a quiet, reflective space, the sound of a clock ticking filling the air. The case is now closed and the killer is behind bars. But as you look back on the events that transpired, you can't help but wonder what could have been done to prevent the tragedy. The investigation was one of the most extensive in British history, and the detectives worked tirelessly to follow every lead. But despite their best efforts, the killer was able to evade capture for so long. As you stand there, you realize that the case is a reminder of the complexities of the human mind and the darkness that can lurk within. The killer was a master of manipulation who used his charm and charisma to lure his victims to their deaths. But as you look deeper, you see a complex web of motivations and desires that drove him to commit such heinous crimes. The case is a reminder that justice is not always swift or fair, and that sometimes the truth is hidden in the shadows. As you stand there, you can't help but wonder what other secrets are hidden in the darkness, and what other surprises might be waiting for you. The case may be closed, but the mystery will always linger, a haunting reminder of the darkness that exists in the world. As we conclude this haunting tale of Britain's cold cases, we're left with more questions than answers. The case may be closed, but the mystery will always linger, a haunting reminder of the darkness that exists in the world. We want to hear from you, our viewers. What do you think is the key to solving these cold cases? Share your theories in the comments below, and let's work together to uncover the truth. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime content, and join us next time as we delve into another haunting mystery.